You've been telling us that how the Sandy is now just speeding up. Is this a good thing that it's speeding up? The fact that it would make landfall earlier and perhaps get out earlier? Or is this... Break it down for us.
I'll tell you, Will, there's a little upside to this, and it certainly is the timing with it in terms of it getting out of town, in terms of its big winds. What I think really is happening is, and you remember, we talked about the surge being problem number 1, the wind being 2, and the rainfall being a distant 3rd. Well, the rainfall is almost getting chopped out of the storm, even though it's raining very heavily, and I mean, it's whipping down Columbus Avenue right now. The rain intensity and the idea of any inland flooding problem is not really the issue. I mean, it's really the wind and causing trees to come down and power lines to come down. And you can see the winds coming out of the northeast right now, and these wind gusts that were reported last hour, 60 miles along the coast, you know, they're in between these stations. These are wind gusts around 70 miles an hour. But there's some interesting things that we're all analyzing in the weather office right now that are taking shape with this as it comes ashore. First of all, it's very lopsided. I mean, you can see it's very left side heavy now, western heavy, meaning that all the rain is on that side. Now, the wind structure is still fully intact, and we're seeing that from all of our reporters. But if you look at where we're trying to figure out where this is going to make landfall, it's very difficult to discern the center of circulation. This certainly is no longer a defined eye, and that's why we're getting hourly reports from the Hurricane Center, and you know, they're saying that it's a few miles east-southeast of Cape May, but it's tough to pick it up. I mean, it looks like it could be right there, but it's certainly not defined. So it's likely to come on shore here in the next hour and a half max. But if you notice, then we saw where Jim Dolan was in Atlantic City. I mean, there's already the cloud shield is coming in and the heaviest rain starting to move to his west. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to actually see a little brightening down in Atlantic City in about an hour and a half. I mean, look at what's happening here. How you see the heavy rains begin to shift off to the west. Now, that will not help the surge. I mean, this is why we think that the surge is what Sandy is going to be remembered for. I mean, even though we got the big winds and we have the heavy rainfall at times, it is all about how it's pulling all this water to shore, and you have to go by that tide cycle in the morning, how it'll be doubled as we go into the evening hours. I mean, look at the rainfall here, basically from, let's say, New Brunswick north and east. I mean, there's some rain and there's some pockets of heavier rain, and that's not saying it can't kick up at times, but it's not torrential rain that's going to cause the inland flooding. I mean, again, look at that. Look at how the heaviest rain is now switching toward Trenton and down to Philly and D.C. and Baltimore. So now it's really about the core winds, which will be with us over the next 6 hours, and then the big surge. I mean, the next time that we're going to be really worried about here is that 8 o'clock time period when we see the surge around the Jersey Shore, south shore of Long Island, New York Harbor, and then closer to midnight on the western end of Long Island. But it's really kind of interesting how it's opening up. It was very, very powerful just before coming on shore, and then it seemed to have lost a little bit of its structure as it's gone on shore. It's too late to help out on the surge, but we are helping out a little bit on the periods of rainfall, and hopefully that wind will start to slacken a little bit after we get to about midnight or so. Guys?
Destruction and damage is growing already, and it's only going to get worse, it appears. Let me give you a couple examples. You know, on the Harlem line, there are trees reported down north of Fordham and in Hartsdale. There's also a tree in the signal wires in the New Haven line west of Larchmont Station. Flooding has been reported along the upper Hudson line in the areas of Beacon, Cold Spring, Croton Harmon, Metro North using patrol trains to try and deal with what they can. And Con Ed is warning that if flooding becomes an issue in some parts that are at risk, they're going to go ahead and